So now that I have my site plan, I can go ahead and start to do my solar analysis. Revit has this really great feature where we can place the building in an exact location and then do these solar studies where we can analyze how the building reacts to the site. How the building reacts to the sun, the shadows that it creates, along with a whole lot of other features that we're not really going to be covering. But to start, we're going to be doing this solar analysis. So I'm going to jump over to a 3D view so that I can see my model. Okay. And we're going to come over here to the properties box. And on the left-hand side, we just want to make sure that our camera, the projection mode is set to perspective. Okay. Sometimes by default, I've noticed that it's set to orthographic. So if that's the case, make sure that it's set to perspective and then apply. The next thing I'm going to do is come over here to the bottom, and we have these two icons. One says shadow off, and it's kind of a sphere with a blue light. And then to the left of that says sun path off. So right now, by default, our shadows and our sun path is turned off. So I'm going to start off by turning the shadows on. So I'm going to click that button, and and then I get some shadows. Now this seems right off the bat, it seems a bit odd because it seems as though the sun is somewhere over here on this side of the building, and that to me seems odd because if we look at our coordinates over here at the top right, it's telling me that this is north. So that means that the sun is oriented north, which is odd because we're in Santa Monica, and Santa Monica is on the northern hemisphere, which means that the sun should be on the south side. So that means that I'm going to have to change and adjust my location. In order to do that, and to also part of the sun path process is we turn the sun path, or we're going to actually, sorry, we're going to right click. Okay. No, I take that back. We're going to turn the sun path. We're going to click on the sun path. And then we get these four options. We have sun setting, sun path off, sun path on, and then solar study. Okay. We're going to go up to sun settings. And then I'm going to click on still. And then I'm going to click on location. Now, I find that odd that it says that our current location is in Boston, because if we were in Boston, the sun would still be oriented south. So let's just keep an eye on that. I'm going to click on these three dots. And now I can enter an exact location. So if you have an exact location or an exact address, then you could enter the address here. I don't have an exact address, so I'm just going to type in Santa Monica. I'll click search, and I'm going to click Santa Monica, California. And then I'll hit OK. From here, I can go ahead and specify a date, okay? And I can specify a time. Ground plane level, set our ground plane level. It should be actually first floor. And then I'll hit apply and OK. And that begins to look much more accurate, okay? Because it's telling me that the sun is coming from kind of a southern angle. Now, what we can actually do is come over here where it says sun path off, turn that on, and we'll turn the sun path on. And if we zoom out, now we could actually see the sun path for this day. Okay. So what we want to do is set a series or create a series of solar studies in different, or kind of capture these solar studies in different parts of the year, right? So we have 4 seasons: summer, spring, winter, and fall, not in that order. But we want to capture those moments, okay? And that's going to give us a good understanding of how this building reacts to the sun throughout the entire year. And really what it also does is it takes a look at the vegetation that we've kind of are that we're proposing and how that's going to react to the site and the building as well. So at this point, what I want to do is set my camera in place. Okay. So I want all of these four views or these four kind of snapshots to be taken from the exact location because it's not really useful if I have the sun setting or the sun view from this angle, and then I have another view from this angle and another view from this angle because it doesn't really allow us to compare and contrast. So given that the sun is on the south, I'm going to want to orient my camera, okay, from the south looking north, or north is up. So look over here, north is there, south is down here. I want to kind of set the camera up in a way where I can see the entire building. Let's go ahead. Yeah, where I can see the entire building. And I want to get a good view where I'm going to be able to see the most, sorry, where I can see the most effects or all of the effects of the sun throughout the year on the building. So maybe this angle there, I could also do it from this side, but these trees are really kind of getting in the way here. So I'm going to choose this side there, something like that. Okay. I'm going to just kind of put the center of the screen, something like that. And then what I'll do is I'm going to come over here to our sun path. We'll click on this. We can go to our sun settings. We'll go to still, and you'll notice that it already has by default the summer, the winter, spring, and fall equinoxes and solstice. Okay, these are measurements throughout the day, or these are days throughout the year that start a new season. And they're usually around the 20th, 21st. So the summer solstice, we'll go ahead and start with the summer solstice. That's June 21st. And we're going to create a study at 12 p.m., okay, which is high noon. We'll hit apply and okay. And that's what the building will look like. And those are the shadows that would be created on the 21st at 12 p.m. Now, one thing to note really quickly, and this is kind of slightly off topic, but it is actually good to understand the sun and how it works. Sun does rise on the east and sets on the west. However, in the summertime, it actually rises northeast and then sets northwest. So as we're doing these studies, just make a mental note and take a look at how the sun is actually moving throughout our site and where it's rising, where it's setting. Because it's always good to know that kind of stuff. And then also take a look at the effects that the sun is having on the building. So during the summertime, the sun is higher up, which means that it's casting kind of direct shadows, or it's casting itself directly onto the building, which is in result is creating thinner shadows, smaller shadows. Okay. So what I'm going to do here, in order to kind of capture this, I'm really not going to capture it. What I'm going to do is save these settings. I'm going to come over here to the project browser, and we're in the 3D view. And what I'm going to do is duplicate this view. So I'm going to right click on 3D view, duplicate view, and then duplicate. And now I get 3D copy 1. I'll select this, I'll right click on it, and I'm going to rename this summer. Okay. I'll go ahead and right click again. Let's duplicate this, and we'll move on to the next one. We're going to rename this fall, which comes after summer. And we're going to repeat the same steps. So I'm in fall. I'll go to the to the sun setting. Now at this point, because we've already adjusted all of our settings, we could actually just go to solar study. It's slightly easier. And all I do is come up here to this pull down and select fall equinox. Okay. We can play around with the intensity and the shadow intensity, things like that. But I really don't like messing around with it anyway, so I just kind of avoid that. So at this point, we are now in fall and we're in the fall equinox, and we adjusted the sun to fall. I'm going to try to do these next steps really quickly, but I'm going to duplicate, rename, and call this winter, and it's going to be the same thing. We're going to go into the sun path, solar studies, change this into winter, and that's winter. One last time, duplicate view, duplicate, rename. This time we are now in spring, and change the sun. We'll go to solar study, preset, change this to spring. And there we have it. So we have fall, we can double click. We have fall, spring, summer, and winter. So now we have 4 sun studies. Okay. Now it's kind of nice because we can double click on each one and see the difference. Okay. But it'll be better if we can get them all on one sheet. Also, really quick side note, notice that I did not change the angle. So I don't rotate. Once you set the first sun study and you've saved it, don't go in there and start orbiting around to different views because you want to keep the same angle on the building. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is create a sheet. I'm going to come down over here to sheets. We're going to right click and select new sheet. Now all of my other sheets are set on a what we call an ANSI D, ANSI, ANSI D, 22 by 34. So we'll hit OK. And it generates a sheet, and it's the E4 sheet. I'm not sure why it's called E4. That's just the one that it generated. So I'm going to go ahead and double click in here. Now on the assignment or the project checklist, the solar study is sheet A6.1. So then I'll rename the sheet number, and we're right here where it says unnamed. We're going to call this solar analysis. Okay. So now we have our sheet. What I'm going to do is come back to my 3D view, and I'm going to click and drag and place, and I'm going to get this warning. It says the sheets do not support uncropped perspective. Do you want to enable the crop region for the view? And that's simply because the 3D view really isn't a setup sheet, right? Or a setup drawing the way that, let's say, a floor plan is or an elevation is. It's a 3D view. So it doesn't actually come in with a crop region. So that's what it's telling us. And so we're just going to hit yes. And we're going to go ahead and place this right at the top. And that's what I get. Okay, which is clearly just a small snippet of what I want. Now, if I click on it, now, since we are in the sheet settings, this is going to work and behave very similar to a regular drawing. So if we want to adjust something, we can double click inside, and that's going to take us into the actual drawing. Now you want to make sure, actually, we can actually zoom in and zoom out. It doesn't actually adjust or change the scale, which is different than an actual drawing. But what I can do is select on the crop region and really kind of bring this out, make this a lot larger so that it all fits right inside. Okay, and then when I'm done, I'll go ahead and double click outside. Now the problem here is that it's a little too big, right? The idea is to get all 4 of my views on one sheet. And so at this size, it's way too large. I'm not going to be able to fit all 4. So this is one way, so we have to scale this down. Now we can't use a scale because it's not an actual drawing, right? It's not a floor plan that has a scale. What we have to do is select the image or select the view, but click on it just once. If you double click, then you go into the actual view, which we don't want to do. So click on it once, And you'll notice that we do get a minor change in our ribbon window here. And one of the options is size crop. So we're going to click on size crop, and it's going to treat this as an image. Okay. So what I can do, or what I'm going to do, is come down here where it says change, and we're going to set it to scale. Because what we want to do is change the scale and keep the proportions locked. We don't want to stretch this image in any way. So from here, I'll go ahead and bring this down to, let's try 13 inches and apply. And we kind of, let's hit okay. Maybe that might work. I don't know. What do you think? We actually won't know until we bring in the one below. So the way we're going to do this is very similar to kind of elevations. You start on one corner and you move your way to the right and then down and then to the right. So similar to how we read, we start at the left at the top and then we move to the right and then move on to the next line. So after summer comes fall. After fall comes winter, then spring. I'm not going to add fall because I'm pretty sure that we can copy this and we have enough space over here for fall. What I want to do is add winter. Okay. So let's bring winter in. Here we go. And we get that same error. We'll hit yes. And I'm going to place this. Now, before I go in and start playing with the actual crop region to make it larger, I'm just going to click on the image right now and change the size crop. We'll hit scale. Oh, you know what? This isn't going to, well, might have to eyeball this whole thing. So let's try 13. We'll hit apply. Yep, that's not going to work. So let's hit cancel. All right, so what we want to do, let's double click. So we are going to have to adjust the crop region. Okay. And I think where we have to be consistent is making sure that the crop region is nice and tight to the end of the image. Okay, so in other words, notice how I'm getting really close to this ring. I don't have a bunch of empty space over here. So we're going to want to get really close, kind of as close as we can to the image. And actually, you know what, this is already kind of coming into the size we want it to. Oh, I have to double click to get out. And we could also use the arrows on the keyboard to kind of nudge it. Okay. Now it is slightly bigger. So at this point, what I'm going to do is select it, size crop, and bring this down to, say, 13. You know what, let's go 12.6. Nope, not 15 inches, 12 feet 6. Sorry, it's not 12 feet 6. Let's go 12 inches. I'm thinking feet. Let's hit apply and okay. And it did get a little bit smaller, but I think that's going to work. So let's go ahead and double click inside there, adjust the crop region. Now make sure, I didn't do this in the first one with the summer, but make sure that you also turn the crop region off because we don't want that printed. So let's go inside here, double click in here, and turn off the crop region. Okay. And really what I'm looking for is the scale of the building to be very similar. So once I have that in place, I can go ahead and adjust my drawing titles, click on the drawing title and bring this down. And then bring in the fall and the spring. I'm going to go ahead and pause this recording so you don't have to sit down and watch me go through all of this. Okay, so now I have all 4 studies. We have the summer, we have fall, we have winter, and we have spring. Now I did have to adjust each one individually. So in other words, adjust the resize the image individually, right, using the size crop. And what I'm really looking at is trying to be consistent with the circle here. They're all relatively close. Some are scaled to 12, some are 13, some are 12 and a half. So it's just kind of eyeballing it so that it's all pretty, so that these circles are pretty much the same. We want to make sure to hide the crop regions and then just to align the titles correctly. Okay. So this is our solar analysis. And really quickly, just take another look again at the sun path. Sun rises in the north, sets on the west, but in the summertime, the sun is a lot higher up, so we get smaller shadows. As we start to hit the equinox, so in fall, the sun is slightly lower, and so now we're casting farther shadows, slightly farther, longer shadows. Okay. Actually, the good one is to take a look at these trees. Compared to this, in the wintertime, the sun also rises on the east, but at this point it's starting to rise southeast and it arcs over and sets on southwest. But because of the angle of the sun, we're casting longer shadows, especially compared to the summertime. And then as the sun goes back up, it's very similar. I mean, it's the same thing as the fall equinox, but now we're in a spring equinox. Sunrise on the east, sets exactly due west, and we are getting smaller or less casted shadows from the wintertime. And then from spring, it starts over again to the summer. Okay. So this is a really good study just to understand the shadows. Now we could actually zoom in if we wanted to, and you could do your own solar analysis if you're interested in really understanding the shadows and the sun path based on the project. Okay, hope this helps.